Welcome back to the 2026 Mackinac Policy Conference. As Michigan policymakers confront growing challenges around housing, foster care, homelessness, and food insecurity, let's talk with three nonprofit and social service leaders on the front line. Kelli Dobner, Chief Strategy and Growth Officer for Samaritas, Kevin Roach, CEO of MCHS Family of Services, and Ryan Hertz, CEO of Lighthouse. So good to have you three here with us.
It's really good to be here.
So, Kelli, as I mentioned, Michiganders are facing pressure on multiple fronts, right? There's affordable housing, there's homelessness, food insecurity. I'm curious, are these separate crises in your mind, or are they all connected through just sort of larger systemic challenges in the state right now?
Yeah, it's both and.
Yeah.
Definitely. Each one of those presents its own crises, but they're definitely intertwined, together. We're seeing a lot of families struggle with homelessness like we haven't seen before, and affordability. They're also struggling with gainful employment opportunities. At the same time, we're seeing for the first time in a long time that I can remember, a significant need for basic needs to be fulfilled. And they know there are potential more cuts, that are coming that are going to impact them. So by way of example, we can have a family that is struggling with addiction. We're providing them with the right services, getting them on the road to recovery. They have a gainful employment opportunity, but they're still living in their car, right? Because there just is not enough affordable housing as part of that safety net to be able to help families in times of crisis, much less sustain the situation that they're in once they achieve some independence and success.
Yeah, I think it's a question that needs to be asked. Why? Why are we at this point now? You said it's increasing.
Yeah. Well, the housing crisis is a significant issue right now. We know that. I hate to even use the word affordable housing because it has its own stigma that comes with it. And if we're being really honest, everything is inaffordable right now, when it comes to housing. And we have families that are changing. I mean, families used to be 4.2 members, right? Today, they're more like 2.3 members. And so we have smaller families, but we're not necessarily building the right infrastructure to support those families. And so you're leaving people homeless or with very little options to be able to respond.
Yeah. Kevin, MCHS Family of Services is going to become the largest foster care agency in Michigan. Where are the greatest unmet needs right now?
I think that when you think about really where those unmet needs are, a lot of it does tie into what Kelli was saying with Samaritas, right? That we know that this is all interconnected. And so to say that for one family, it could literally be housing. Another family, it could be food insecurity. A third, it could be the cost of childcare, right? We know that there's many contributing factors that will lead families into these type of situations. And when we think about, certainly from our vantage point at MCHS, we know that for one thing, this doesn't discriminate, right? Listen, there's a lot of families, a lot of households who are being impacted or who are feeling kind of the rebound effect from just a few years ago. And so for us, right, we're meeting these families where they're at and trying to figure out what those community needs truly are, because they do slightly shift based off of certainly what community or what household you're speaking to.
When you say meeting them where they need to be met, what does that mean? What does that look like on the ground?
I think, it's the basic needs, right, that it takes to have a growing and thriving family and to make our community stronger on this end. And so when we allow our families to partner with us and figuring out what that next chapter is, they get to define it, right? And that can look so many different ways based, once again, what their experiences are, whether this is generational, whether this is something brand new, or certainly whether it's a two-income household or a one-person household, or certainly in a lot of our families' cases where it's a new family coming together.
Ryan, Lighthouse is building a major new central campus in Pontiac. What gap is the project designed to fill?
Well, our original vision for the campus redevelopment was really on the tail end of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so when we saw a huge increase in basic needs, emergency services in our community, we stepped up to meet that mostly in the space of emergency food and emergency shelter. We did that through renting large amounts of warehouse space and purchasing large amounts of food for distribution. and through using hotels in our community. And so the campus redevelopment was really focused on what is the best of the best when it comes to models of delivering these services that we learned during that period at scale, and how do we invest from a capital perspective in what we need to deliver on that sustainably in a dignified way that meets the needs of the people coming to us today. It happened right after our merger that was really focused on Lighthouse and South Oakland Shelter coming together to focus on longer term solutions. So really housing, development of affordable housing, really addressing the environmental barriers for families that are trying to reach some level of financial sustainability. And so we did kind of have to go back to our roots a bit on investing in emergency services, but concurrently we're working on a large number of affordable housing projects throughout Pontiac, Oakland County, and Detroit, really focusing on when people come to us for emergency services, what's our best hope for where these folks are going to land, and what is or is not in the local marketplace to empower them to succeed.
Yeah. You use the word dignified. Say more about that.
Well, really, to Kelly's point earlier about stigma. So we're a poverty alleviation organization, and so we're working with people that are impacted by all of these issues: housing, food, gas prices, everything right now. There's really very little relief. And we're talking about the population who's impacted by those issues, who's most stigmatized, as Kelly put it. And so what that means is it limits our imagination around policy solutions. Oftentimes, we're driven more by narrative than fact in the world. And so when we think about somebody who's impoverished, and we think about what do we as a society tend to believe about impoverished families, we think policy solutions are about what we tend to believe and feel about it. We want to see them be more productive. We want to see them get back on their feet. And when we think about things like affordable solutions, et cetera, that can sound like enabling when in reality it's empowering. When we actually see what happens when we make those investments, it's really empowering. And so for me, what it means to provide dignified solutions is to invest in people for who they are, to believe in people, to believe in their capacity, and see what we do for them as an investment in their future and an investment in our community and in our workforce, as opposed to something else.
Kevin, what does that look like for you?
We often say, certainly in our work, whether it's on child welfare, mental health, and certainly on the housing end, that you either pay for it now or you pay for it later, right? And so I think to Ryan's point, right, we know that at some point this is going to come to a head, right? And at some point we have to figure out when do we actually get that momentum and have some new solutions and some new pathways to those solutions, or if we're just kind of still doing the same thing over and over again with our lawmakers, with our funders, with certainly those community leaders on this end. We know that that's going to come at a price at some point or another. Oftentimes, though, solving that now and tackling those issues head on in the current moment is a lot better than kicking that can down the road.
Kelli, I'm curious. I heard Ryan say we're sort of thinking too small when it comes to policy solutions. I'm hearing that we can't keep kicking, the can down the road. What would a solution right now look like if you could sort of wave a magic wand?
Wave a magic wand.
Yeah, right?
Yes. I love when I'm asked that question.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
Right,
Just
no.
solve all the world's problems.
Just solve all of them at once.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. No, I mean, I really think that it's an important question, because we're in a very important moment in time.
Yeah.
How do we respond in this moment makes a big difference.
Right.
Not only for now, but into the future. And that's one thing, given everything that's happening around us, creating clarity through that chaos and responding in this time to be not only responsive, but proactive, applying innovation. I mean, that's one of the things that we're looking at for the sector at Samaritas, and with great partners like Ryan and Kevin and so many others, to be able to come together and look at things differently, recognizing it's not just about program or how contracts are written. It goes along with the notion that we belong to each other. We're a community, and policy has to follow that, and so does funding. And so applying innovative new ways of accomplishing all of those things, I think, is going to be the name of this game in this point in time right now. Yeah.
Ryan, I'm curious your thoughts too. You were saying that we're looking too small. What does looking larger or outside of the box look like to you?
Over the last few years, I've been sort of championing the idea that we need to think about housing the same way we think about agriculture, right? And so thinking about it from the framework of, we don't stigmatize people because there isn't a market to produce a certain produce, right? We subsidize it because we know we're going to need it, and we know that if the market doesn't support the production of it the way that our market requires, that we should subsidize that, and it's to everyone's benefit. If we start thinking about housing that way, I think we might be able to get somewhere. Right now, we have really specialized solutions for low-income people that are extremely expensive, and we could reduce the cost of production across the board. And I want to give credit, I think at the state level, that the Michigan State Housing Development Authority has come a long way on that front, looking at ways to subsidize across the market and recognizing that people that we serve at Lighthouse who are experiencing poverty, there's a positive impact on them when we meet the needs of mid-income and even higher income people by creating more product on the market, and that there's less expensive ways to get there than to only solve for the most acute. So I think thinking bigger is really looking at housing as something that our economy needs and not something that we stigmatize someone for not being able to afford it, when most of the people we're serving are really hardworking people.
Yeah. Kevin, who needs to hear that message? I mean, I'm hearing you three sort of all have these solution-oriented mindsets, but who needs to hear that? Who needs to be at the table?
I think that's a great question, being here at the Mackinac Policy Conference, right, where we do have that mixture of different makers, of those thought leaders who can certainly come together, whether it's the public sector that we desperately need, right, and the great relationships and the great work that is being done under the Whitmer administration needs to continue to whoever takes over and rents that office for the next 4 years, right? Along with, of course, the philanthropists, nonprofit sector, and just anybody that, once again, is coming to the table and thinking about this, not just in the next year or the next 2 years, but thinking about this from the long term, right? So that we're not revisiting these conversations every few years or once a decade on this end and looking around and wondering who's going to step up and actually have some of these answers, right? The answer about policy solutions and what that magic wand looks like is certainly, there's no shortage of magic wands that are going to be needed, right? And if everybody's willing to pick up their wand and offer a policy suggestion or a change in the law, whether it's with the zoning issues or with renting or subsidies or anything along those lines, right? We know that it's really going to take as many people to come to the table and say, if we want to envision a stronger community for the next generation that comes after us, this is what it's going to take.
Yeah.
Someone we need at the table who is not at the table in a serious way right now is the federal government. I think when it comes to philanthropy and it comes to our state policy, we're really moving in the right direction. Currently, we're seeing efforts to go in the opposite direction at the federal level, looking at issues like housing instability and saying, we have a larger number of people who are homeless at this time than we've ever had in this country, and therefore we need to divest from the solutions that we've been investing in without necessarily recognizing the nuance of those who have been invested in are successful. When we've not invested enough at scale in order to meet the scope of the need, it can look like policy solutions that actually are very effective aren't effective, and we could find ourselves in an even worse situation if we go in the opposite direction. And right now I think we're at risk of that, and most of the resources that come through our housing system are federal resources. They're being leveraged through our state agencies like MSHDA, but the low-income housing tax credit is an IRS tax credit, right? Investment in permanent housing, most of those funds are coming through the Continuum of Care program at HUD, and so if we don't see progress at the federal level, all of our jobs are going to be a lot harder at the local level.
Brian, Kevin, Kelly, important conversations. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much for shedding light on this.
And we head now to the next session.